Hello there. Great to have you joining us, whether you're joining us live or whether you're joining us from the replay. It is awesome to have you all out there. I'm Chloe Thomas, the host of the Keep Optimizing Marketing podcast, and this is one of our expert Q&A panel webinars because each month on the podcast we do a masterclass. How can I forget the word masterclass? We do a masterclass on a different marketing method that you need to know about, and we get a load of experts on to tell you what you need to know, the latest tips and tricks. And last month, the month of March, was our Google Ads month, a very busy month with lots of very cool stuff going on in the Google Ads world at the moment that's happened already this year and that's coming up later, which we may well get into in this. This, however, is your chance to get your questions answered by our experts. So it's really quite a free-ranging session. We could go anywhere, so long as it's got something to do with Google Ads, we're happy to go there. So do send me your questions. Whether you're watching us on YouTube or you're watching us on LinkedIn, just add those in the comments. They will feed through to me and I will then bring those through to our audience. And I would love to spend the next 45 minutes asking your questions and not mine. So please do send those questions in early. Don't leave them to the last 5 minutes because in the last 5 minutes, I don't have time to ask any more questions. So get the questions in now. That would be awesome. And then we're just going to have a really interesting chat about the latest tips and tricks going on in the Google Ads space. So let me tell you who I've got on my guest list today, and then we'll bring them out to introduce themselves properly. So we got Becky Hopkin from Digital Gearbox. She was on the show talking all about Google shopping campaigns, and you can find out more about what she does at digitalgearbox.co.uk. We've got Zeze Peters from Beam.city, who was telling us all about automation. Oh, exciting automation stuff. And you get a demo of their software at Beam.city/DNA, or Beam.city, I should say, /DNA. Then we have Laura Hogan from Sweet Digital, who was on talking about the combining all the bits of Google Ads together into one cohesive funnel. It was an excellent session. Not that the rest of your sessions, because they can all hear me right now, weren't excellent, but I love the concept of pulling it all together. And Laura's business you can find at www.sweetdigital.co.uk. And then we've got Andy Splichal, who is from Make Each Click Count, who does so much stuff to help you do your Google Ads better, including his courses and his books. And the most exciting one of those at the moment, because it's the new shiny one, is his book, Make Each Click Count, the TOP Guide to Success Using Google Ads, which you can get on Amazon in lots of different formats and also from makeeachclickcount.com. And then there's me, the host of the whole podcast, who gets to ask the questions normally. And hopefully today we'll not get to ask many questions because you will have questions for our guests. Right then. Guys, it's time I bring you all up here on screen with me. We'll get rid of the slide deck. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, you're right.
Hey.
So cool. So many experts for you guys to tap the minds of today. So we're going to go round the circle to give the guests a chance to introduce themselves and their areas of expertise around Google Ads and all that kind of good stuff. So Andy, we will start with you.
Sure, yeah, no, as the intro said, my name is Andy Splichal. I am the author of the Make Each Click Count book series, which includes Make Each Click Count, the TOP Guide to Success Using Google Ads, Make Each Click Count using Google Remarketing, and Make Each Click Count using Google Shopping. I'm also the host of the Make Each Click Count podcast, the founder of Make Each Click Count University, and the founder and managing partner of True Online Presence, a search engine marketing agency.
Just a few things going on in Andy's world there. Becky, you're next.
Thank you, Chloe. Hello, I'm Becky Hopkin of Digital Gearbox, an agency founded by none other than Chloe herself many, many years ago that I now have the privilege of running. We are UK-based and work with a variety of lovely clients, big and small, e-commerce and B2B. I also run a podcast called the PPC Burrito, if you're ever looking to hear some PPC chat on a weekly basis.
Nice. Excellent. Thank you, Becky. Sorry, Laura, I was busy copying and pasting things there. So, Laura, we'll let you do your intro now, please.
Yeah, that's fine. So my name's Laura Hogan, and I own Sweet Digital, which is in a cool little banner at the bottom now. We're a full-service digital marketing agency based in Birmingham in the UK, which you may be able to tell from my Brummie twang. I don't have a podcast, for a book. But we do some really cool stuff around SEO and PPC in particular, and kind of paid social for clients big and small across the globe.
Excellent. Thank you, Laura. And finally, Zeze, who doesn't run an agency but is doing something very cool in the world of Google Ads. So Zeze, tell us a little bit about it, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Zeze. I'm the founder and CEO of Beam.city. Our platform is called DNA. It's an advertising automation platform, but really it does more. We call it the mission control for advertisers that unifies your ads, analytics, and social in one place, while AI helps you get better results. So we help agencies, we help advertisers of small, medium-sized businesses, CPG, enterprise, to do a better job. And the AI does a lot of great work on Google and on other advertising channels as well. And I'm super excited to be here. Yes, I don't have a podcast, but making each click count is something that we definitely care about. So Andy, I'll be talking to you a whole lot too. Really, everybody on the call, I'm really glad to be happy to be on this panel with you guys. Can't wait for the conversation.
Awesome. Well, everyone, I told you we had quite a serious panel going on here. There's some serious knowledge in this room. So those of you who are watching this live, please do send us in your questions so I can ask your questions rather than mine. Guys, I was just all the stuff we've covered in the last month. I was trying to work out where on earth do we start today's discussion, because there's quite a lot of changes coming up in Google Ads. There's a lot of changes going on in the world we're all operating in. So I'm going to start with a ridiculously large question for you all. And it's a long question as well, so you might want to get a note paper out for this. But with the increasing costs of goods that retailers are dealing with, thank you, Zeze, liking the writing there. Increasing costs are going up for retailers, both in terms of marketing spend, in terms of overheads and all the rest of it. It's harder to retain staff at the moment, yet at the same time, consumer spending abilities are being squeezed by growing inflation, the rising price of oil, all this really hideous stuff we have to listen to in the news, which is going to make the rest of this year a really challenging one, where every penny, every cent, every dollar, every pound really counts. So with that in mind, and on the basis that anything you do in Google Ads takes a good couple of months to really get working really, really well, for those listening to this, tuning into this, where would you really focus down? If you really had to just do one thing on Google Ads, you had to just really focus your effort in one area, add one new area in, where would you focus? Laura, you are nodding loads, so you're going to be my first victim. I'm going to come to you first for your take on this.
I think for me, I would probably put it into really, really targeted keyword ads, search ads. I think I'd probably knock display on the head for a little bit, as much as it pains me to say that. And with how competitive pricing's got on shopping, I'd probably stay off that for a little bit and just go really like exact match search terms for things that have converted in the past. So I'd really be looking at historic data and what keywords have worked for us, even organically. What gaps have you got organically, and kind of fill those with some of the paid, and just really go exact match. I'd maybe even turn off some automation a smidge, so you can really see how much you're paying cost per click, and keep an extra close eye on that, and just really, really pull it in, which probably is opposite to what some people will say. Yeah.
That's a really protectionist, be safe strategy, which I think is especially, I think it's a good recommendation, especially if you're doing it in-house and you're juggling other responsibilities, because the last thing you want is to have some really cool Google Ads going and you accidentally ignore it for a month and it goes. Cool, I like that one. Who's got an alternative? Because I bet someone has. Who's going to jump in next? We're going to go. Let's go, ladies. But
I'm going to pop in and speak about the opposites of Laura's suggestion. I've seen a lot of businesses pop into the search space before their websites are ready for the outcomes. And so before the websites are ready for the outcomes, it's kind of tricky to go do that. I love that Laura caveated it to kind of emphasize on campaigns you've done in the past. So for people who've got new ideas, new campaigns, new seasons, like over here in Toronto, yes, I am in Toronto. The weather just went from cold winter to spring, and it's kind of warm. Now all the retailers, everybody's got some new campaigns, new products, new everything. So that cash crunch is an issue. So what I would actually suggest a lot of people do, and I'm going to cheat and do more than one thing, is run display campaigns. Obviously, I always advocate for automation, but emphasize remarketing, right? Because remarketing is how you can get some of that dollar cost down. And display campaigns, I mean, you know, it's not the highest intent today, but it could be extremely high intent within a few days, and the cost per click are low. You know, so I know a lot of people say, hey, you know what? It really boils down to the conversions, and yes, that's true. But for a small business that doesn't have a huge budget, you want to get that remarketing cycle started as soon as you can.
I like it. We'll allow you to as well. Andy, you were kind of stretching your neck there, looking like you were kind of getting ready to dive in. So, you know, fully warmed up for the argument. So over to you.
You know, I don't know. I mean, it's confusing. You talk to 4 different experts and get 4 different opinions, but it's kind of like everything. I mean, I don't know if it matters as much on what you're going to use as it is that you need to know your numbers. And so especially in a tight economy, you need to make sure your analytics is working and you know what is generating profitability. You know where your profit level is and you're tracking that. And you're also aware of your goals. You know, can you afford the long-term solution, as Zeze said, and use some of that budget on your retargeting? Or are you cash strapped and you really need it right now? And then you might do what Laura said and just concentrate on exact terms or maybe even use just shopping ads on your bestsellers, your traditional bestsellers. But it all starts with needing to know if it's successful and needing to know your numbers.
There were lots of nodding heads there. I think everyone's in agreement with you on that one, Andy. Becky, last but definitely not least.
Oh, I've got kind of an amalgamation of all 3 of everyone's answer, but I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, Andy. I think reassessing what the goal is with your Google Ads is super important right now, and dividing up perhaps some of the targets that you're working to. So it might be for retention, you've got you probably should have a different goal for your retention-based activity as you do for your top of funnel acquisition activity, and you should set clear targets, what you need to achieve to make it worthwhile for each of those campaigns. But yeah, I think I'm hesitant if we're cash strapped. I'm hesitant to turn off display as a cheaper source of traffic. So I'd be looking at how it really depends on the account now and how it's performing. So I hate saying the old "it depends" answer, but I would consider from my search terms, if it's too costly, what could I perhaps transfer over to display, where the custom audiences now are so powerful, whilst we still have the ability to do that before Google takes it away from us. But also, I'm seeing some great results with Performance Max recently. So I know it's the big and shiny new thing.
Oh, but Becky, I'd have to jump in here because on our podcast episode, we clearly defined that you have to say Performance Max.
Sorry.
And you can't say it normally.
Max. Can you vibrate my voice?
It has to be superhero voice for Performance Max campaign.
Max. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing some incredible results from switching up some of our existing standard Google Shopping campaigns to Performance Max. And I find it really annoying because I hate the fact that Google can do better than me. I'm like, I've been doing this years, although Google admittedly has been doing it longer. But I think if you can test even for a few weeks how it works for your account, I'd be looking to test Performance Max as well.
So quite a few suggestions there.
Yeah, sorry, I took 3 there.
No, that's good. It's good because I think all your answers to me show that the beauty of Google Ads and the frustration of Google Ads is there's so many different angles, and it's never a one strategy fits all model. It's always about knowing the numbers and knowing what's going in there. Andy, you almost referred to something coming up, which I don't think we can do this webinar without mentioning, which is the cookie death on Google platforms, I suppose. We spoke about it a bit in our podcast episode about the need to move over to Google Analytics 4. So guys, those of you who are watching, we're about to get a little bit techie, but this is really important stuff. You need to watch it. And if you've got other questions, do send them in. Send me in your questions. So, Annie, we spoke a little bit about Google Analytics 4. Is that something we should be putting in place right now? And can you give us a quick kind of headline on it?
Yeah, so I mean, for those that you don't know, Google Analytics 4 is going to be kind of using intent instead of, since cookie base is going away, right? With the new privacy issues, you can't do the cookie. Now, Universal Analytics is still going to be in place until summer of next year. I think June or July of 2023. So the best suggestions out there are to make sure you have both running, and you can still use your UA, Universal Analytics, to get all the data that you're getting now. Well, most of it, except for people who have blocked cookies, privacy issues. But it'll let you get accustomed to using the new Google Analytics. So when you don't have a choice, you're ready. And it's not, because there's going to be, with anything, there's going to be a learning curve. So you might as well get onto that learning curve while you have time to learn it instead of being forced to next summer.
Definitely. And grab that data. So as Christmas 2023, you can compare back as well. Laura, you were nodding an awful lot when I was mentioning GA4. Is this what you're advising your clients as well at the moment?
Yeah, we're getting it set up ASAP so that they've got more than a year of data to be able to do the comparative analysis in GA4. But not a fan of it. So
me neither.
I don't think anybody is. Like it just feels a bit not necessarily logical in how to use it and kind of the reporting it gives you, and trying to find some of the basic reports you'd get in UI. It's like, where are they? So I think everybody's got a steep learning curve, and we're all begrudgingly doing it because we don't have any other choice.
Yeah, I look at every time I have to log into it, I'm like, did you have to make it this different, Google? You're just trying to alienate all of us. It's a nasty one. Zeze, Becky, either of you got anything to add?
I don't think it was a Google intent to alienate us with using the tool. There is a long-running joke, at least to me anyway, in the industry, where everybody makes the tools as complicated as possible. But in this case, maybe Google kind of overshot in the other direction in simplification. But that's the challenge with intent, right? Intent just has a lot fewer dimensions for you to take a look at and pay attention to. And that's it obviously comes through in the reporting, comes through in the interface. So that means anybody out there who's intending on keeping your business running and having that analytics working by next year, you should definitely do as Andy, Chloe, and Laura and Becky have already suggested. Let's get your GA4 all set up. And then, I'll always plug in, find a way to use either automation tools to help you discover the other side of intent, because it's one thing to know intent, but on display networks like the Google Display Network, there are ways to predict what sites the intent is relevant for. So see if you can get some tools to help you with that extra step.
Oh, we've got a very specific question come in from On the Peg. Thank you for this one, On the Peg. This is not an issue I was aware about. Does anyone have any info on when this will work with Shopify? Even if you use GTM, it still won't work with the ecom reports as I understand it. Anyone had any issues with Google Analytics 4 and Shopify? I haven't heard anything, but...
Well, I mean, the way Shopify works, and sorry, this is another technical question.
That's okay. We're here for the technical.
The way Shopify works with the integration of all the GA scripts and flags and everything else, there could be challenges, but I think that might be more about how well you have your events set up, right? Like Shopify tries to do a really good job of helping you out. They help the Shopify Pluses a lot more. So if you're not on Plus and you can afford it, you should get it. But if you're not, you could get a developer to help you keep track of the events in the exact format that's necessary for it to show up in your reports.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to say because you say it's not working, and so there's so many reasons. Is it not installed properly? Right. What have you? I mean, I would first start at Shopify support, and define what do you mean it's not working, and then look at Shopify support And yeah, no, Shopify Plus, yeah, if you're not on that, you might need that to modify the liquid theme for sure to get that in there.
Right.
I'd imagine a lot of the big players like your Shopify's, your HubSpot, and everybody are going to come out with some kind of guidance in the next couple of months on how to best implement on their platforms. They usually seem quite good at giving a nice breakdown for us on what to do. So I think it's just because it's such a new announcement and everybody's still like head spinning about it. I think there's probably going to be much more literature on it in the next couple of months.
Yeah, it is the good thing on the peg that you're on a big platform. So someone somewhere, whether it's a partner, Shopify themselves, Google, someone somewhere is trying to solve this problem and will solve it in the next couple of months, I would expect, in a really cast iron way. So that's good. You know, if you'd have put like bespoke site number 597 on there, I'd have been a bit more worried for you. You've added a very techie question, which I've just put on screen. Anyone got an ability to answer that, or shall we send it to a Shopify specialist later? They're all reading.
I think this kind of is a clarification of what myself and Andy kind of mentioned, right? Is what's the actual problem specifically? She on the peg is mentioning that you can make changes on the cart in Shopify Plus, which is why we brought up Shopify Plus. But it's not yet clear exactly why it's not working. So it definitely requires some debugging, technical term. It depends.
Oh, I muted myself rather than removed the message. There we go. That's what I meant to do. Much more useful. Much more useful. On the peg, sorry we couldn't do more on the answer to that question for you, but keep your eyes peeled, and I will now be keeping my eyes peeled on that one too. And if anyone else has got more questions, do send them through. Zeze, just before we got that question, you were taking us into the world of automation, which we obviously did talk about in our session. We've had a thanks for your answers, guys. So thank you. Obviously, you're very into automation, but it featured in all of the sessions we did, different bits of automation. So I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite bit of Google Ads automation, either on the Google Ads platform or Zeze, you can give us off the Google Ads platform.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Go for it. No. I was gonna come to you first anyway. So you read my mind.
Yeah, on platform, Google does a lot of really amazing things, and for agencies and even for advertisers who are not fully cognizant of how to use it correctly, their smart ads can be a very powerful tool. It's just that you don't get a lot of data out of those kinds of advertising, and so you're not really sure exactly what's actually working. I'm more in the engineering style of figuring out what's working for you. So that means doing micro tests, tests to figure out the right kind of creative that's going to work the best for you. Anybody who's doing advertising on Google, whether it's display or search, that your creative has a really huge oversized role in the outcomes you get post-click. And so the ability to try again is a huge thing. Google won't automate it for you. There are tools that will. Our platform will be adding some creative automation capabilities, or at least making it easy for you to scale out creative automation. But my favorite piece, personally, is what we do, and that has to do with budget retargeting. So that means you run a campaign on a few channels contemporaneously, and wherever you're getting the best outcomes, you can get some of that dollars taken from the poor performers, put into the best performers. That's the best way to keep your ROI high and consistent across the board.
And Laura, you were listening intently and nodding a lot there. So, what's your do you agree with Zeze? And what was your favorite automation to use in Google Ads at the moment?
Yeah, trying and testing for sure, and like using the experiment section in Google Ads. I think it's priceless, especially for understanding which landing pages get the best result and kind of which ad creators people are preferring. So I think that's really good. And then I quite like, from a bid strategy automation perspective, I'm quite a fan of target impression share bidding, which I don't think too many people like to use, but I've just found with a lot of B2B clients, when it's very niche what you're targeting or very specific, if you whack that as like a really high target impression share with a decent cost per click on it, you've got really strong, consistent positioning within the ad. So that's one of my favorite ones.
Oh, Becky was definitely not a fan of that option.
To be fair, I've tried target impression share once, and it was for a client who already was getting over 90%, and they just wanted their brand. They wanted 100% on their brand, and it's a company that already had quite high CPCs. But as soon as I switched it to that, I think the cost per clicks more than doubled, and the gain we got on the impression share was minimal, and it didn't make any difference to conversions. So that was my only experience. So I shouldn't shake my head violently, because I just got put off by that one example, and I know one size does not fit all.
See, Becky, I was listening to that thinking I must email Becky later and say, can we test this for the summer marketing, please? Because I was thinking a niche audience with a hard to get to the top of the terms. So yeah.
Just so people who are listening who might not be so Google enamored may not know. So target impression share is Google controls your bid, and you tell them how much you want to appear for those keywords. And so, I mean, I'm right. I've used it typically for just my branded terms for private clients, but I'm not at 100%. I'll put it at like 75 or 80%, and it performs pretty well. I haven't tested trying to do what you did, Becky, at 100%, but
it didn't work out well.
But I would say I only do it for branded terms, because otherwise it can get really expensive.
So Laura, you've opened a can of worms with that one. So thank you for bringing that one to the table.
I'm intrigued to see it working, so I'm glad it does work in some cases. It's good to hear it does.
Yeah, I've not really used it much in ecom, only purely in B2B, and when it's really like a service driven terminology, and we're quite linear on what we're targeting with it. It's just worked in that case, and has lower CPCs than say like max clicks or max conversion. And I think that's partly because of tracking to some extent. If your business is very heavy on phone calls rather than form fills, you're never going to get the exact performance that you want from using like a maximize conversions, because Google doesn't have necessarily the conversions within there to be able to automate it properly. So it was just a safe option and kind of best of both almost for some of the terms.
It's like a way to get some results quickly, but it might be expensive to start, but it's a start.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nice. So Becky, what's your favorite automation?
I would also have to say the bidding side of things. I think especially for e-commerce businesses where you've got loads and loads of SKUs. And for shopping, I mean, we historically have implemented quite a SPAG approach, so a single product ad group, which I know is changing with all the campaign automation now in general. But having to go through and adjust those bids regularly was very time consuming, and handing over the reins to Google to move up and down those bids based on performance. And more importantly, just the fact that the automation strategies use data that we just don't have access to, and that they're doing it in real time. And I've just seen more and more often that it outperforms when we do manual approaches. Not all the time. And I certainly don't believe that you just set an automated bidding strategy and leave it. You still need to keep an eye on it, and you still need to adjust what the targets are and adjust the strategy, and even turn it off at times, because sometimes it can... We're talking about, we call it a death spiral on automated bidding strategies, because at the end of the day, there's seasonality at play, there's changing of seasons, there's things that will make the data go up or down, that can send Google off on that death spiral. So you then need to take over and go to manual bidding again. But yeah, just in terms of saving time, getting better performance, and allowing us as marketers to look at other areas in the account, for me, it has to be my favorite.
Excellent. And Andy, your favorite automation in Google at the moment?
I'm a little bit opposite, where I really don't like the smart shopping bidding at all, and I avoid it at all costs, because the lack of being able to see where my products are showing for what product at what bid out, and it hasn't, in fact, given that you don't have the transparencies, plus I haven't seen it perform very well. I avoid smart shopping like the plague. So it's interesting to see that the max performance, a new thing you're saying it's doing well. We'll have to try it. So I use, maybe, it really depends on the size of the account. I mean, if it's not a big account, if you're only 30 or 40 products, I'm controlling bids manually still. If it is a larger account, then I might use maximize conversion value and put a ROAS and change it that way. But for an automation for larger accounts, what I'm looking at is your DSAs, your dynamic search ads, and use it as a low bid, because that way you can't control search ads. There's just not enough time in a day for a super large site. So that'll let some of these products run pretty well, and let Google do the ad and the bid, and you're controlling that. So I do use that automation for larger accounts.
Yeah, absolutely, Andy. My comment on smart ads was more about for small advertisers that aren't quite used to kind of, they've not gone through the hazing, the Google hazing yet. Smart ads is a good way to kind of start. But I definitely don't use this on a regular basis for client accounts. In fact, our automation doesn't allow that to happen at all. The more insights you have, the better your outcomes can be, and that's how we help you automate. But thanks for calling that out, because I actually agree with you. You don't get enough information. There's just not enough information out of smart ads. So
I fully agree with that, which is why I would always run manual campaigns for a long period to get the data and understand what the baseline performance is before trying automations. And just for clarification, we didn't see good results on smart shopping. It's more automated bidding on standard shopping campaigns. And now we are seeing good stuff with Performance Max. So it's worth testing.
Yeah, I'll have to try it.
We are, everyone listening? Yes, Google Ads is this complicated if you hadn't already worked it out. Which shopping are you talking about? You're talking about that shopping or this shopping, and which bit are you doing on that one? There's so many strategies to try, which is why you've always got to be careful what you're doing with Google Ads, because even our experts are having to clarify with each other, and they spend all day in there. So it's definitely time to play with automation in your Google Ads, to give it a test in the right places, is basically what we're saying there.
Yeah.
I feel like this year is the year we've flipped from all Google automations are bad, they're just ways for Google to make more money, to a world where actually automations on Google are now our friends.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I think it's important for people to know when they're starting with Google Ads that Google is worried about increasing Google's money, and it's up to you to worry about increasing your money. And so test stuff, always test stuff, because something might do really well for you, but don't blindly trust Google.
Yeah, I think it's an enforced having to use it rather than being happy about it. I think there's so much manual that's disappearing. We've either got to go along with it and try and test things and see which works the best, or cry in a corner.
Yeah, there's so many workflows and so many knobs you can turn in all these tools. And, one word I use is, one phrase I use is, they're not people friendly. So automation kind of helps you to get over that hurdle. But I wouldn't go as far as to say that the automations will make your budgets better by default. It really ends up with testing, paying attention to your outcomes. And sometimes it's not the ad's fault. We've not brought this up, but CRO matters once the ads get on your site. A lot of people kind of overlook that. It's like, oh my God, it's like, it's just, are people going to convert on the site though? So that's another problem that agencies and people who are in this space have to deal with is, yeah, we can get your clients, but sometimes your site needs to do the rest of the work correctly.
Yeah, no, huge problem. I'd be curious how others deal with that, because I can, you could have the best traffic, most directed traffic in the world, but if the site doesn't convert, and so I try to steer my clients to optimize their website, to put work in on it, even give some resources out. But what do the other agency owners do?
Much the same. much the same. That's all you can do really, unless you are the developer. But yeah, we have a look at the various factors, site speed, content on the page, etc., and just try and advise if we spot problems, which there often are.
Yeah,
Yes.
for us, we our platform is meant to be self-serve where possible for agencies and for end advertisers. But sometimes we'll give managed support to people who say, hey, you know what? We don't know how to even approach this problem, right? So you can help them figure out the data piece, help them figure out the site piece. It's particularly tricky for B2B, e-commerce when you're in Shopify, especially with Plus. There's a lot of things that kind of help you to kind of, simplify and do. But when it's B2B and you've got your own custom site, your own custom landing pages, we've got to talk you through social proof, talk you through reviews, testimonials, talk you through site speed. Some people love videos that are not optimized, and then if some of that doesn't even work, we would then push you off platform. So I don't know if anybody here has done a lot with Google in search lead forms, but lead forms are a fantastic way to get people to get the information over to the salesperson or the customer in a timely fashion without having to deal with on-site CRO. It can be quite effective. It could be expensive if you're doing it in search, but it's still really, really effective way to get around the CRO problem. Phone call ads are also a really good strategy for certain kinds of businesses. And I know Laura and Becky, you guys talked about it already. So, like the comment you mentioned in the beginning, and the strategy matters. How do you want to close the deal, right? Is it going to be on-site closing? Is it going to be on the phone? And if you don't know the right way to start, it could be a really huge problem, which is why agencies matter a lot. And that's also why we're actually working with Intuit to build a strategy guide that's backed by AI, so that businesses can come in and put in some parameters and get a full strategy guide that tells them where to close their deals. Because the cost per close on e-commerce is different on the phone, different from lead forms. Give you a little bit more insight so that you can start off on the right foot and not the left foot. So yeah.
Interesting. You'll have to let me know when you've got that research, Zeze. I'd like a look.
Actually, we can book some time. Anybody on the call, anybody listening in, chat with us in our chat box on our site, and we'll give you a demo of what we've been working on with the Intuit team and other groups.
Cool. Well, look, guys, we are heading fast towards the end of this. Those of you out there, if you get me another question very, very quickly, I might manage to ask it. Okay, but the clock is ticking on your ability to ask questions now. I'm going to pose you all a bit of a quick tip question, which is very different from the very first question I asked, but quite similar as well. Which is, if you were, we all know we need to test things and build things up in Google Ads. We can't just turn it on and expect it to work next week. So if you were plotting someone's strategy for their Christmas sales at the moment, what would be the key campaign to grow sales that you would be looking to get sorted over the summer for a retail client at the moment? Or maybe there's one cool thing coming down the line in Google land that we should be, or Google Ads land that we should be interested in at the moment.
I feel like I got confused. Sometimes I'm slow on Wednesday mornings. So is it a question more about later in the year, holidays?
Yeah,
or
planning for Christmas.
Okay,
planning for Christmas. Yeah. Becky, you're nodding, so I'll come to you first. And I need quick answers, everyone, because we haven't got many minutes left.
I'm going to give a quick answer and a teaser, because I think you should explore discovery ads. And I talk about that at the eCommerce MasterPlan Summit. So if you want to hear more about that, you can come and join us and listen to that session.
Excellent. On message. Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
Andy, to you next.
Oh, and I'll even put a teaser in too. I would say Google Shopping ads using positive strategy campaigns. And in 2 weeks, I start my signature course, Google Shopping Simplified. So you can check that out at Make Each Click Count University, or get more information at makeeachclickcount.com.
Very cool. Loving the little teasers going on here. Zeze, I'll come to you, and then we'll finish up with you, Laura.
Yeah, so we see a really big part of dominating holiday sales to be in remarketing. So whether or not you're running a campaign now or you're going to run a campaign later, the bigger your audience is, the more affordable they'll be during the high cost season at the end of the year. So we promote, go ahead, make sure you got your GA, your UA set up properly so you got those audiences. And then when the time comes, that is for the holidays, just focus all your dollars into that small bucket. Our platform allows you to do it with new campaigns that you're building. You can use email lists, global IDs. You can actually even use your data straight from your Shopify store to create audiences. So come chat with us, Beam.city. Use the chat box. We're always there, except at 3 a.m. Well, actually, I am there at 3 a.m., but most of my team is not before. And we'll get you set up, give you a demo, let you see how it works, and can help you get freakishly good results using AI.
Freakishly good results. That's what we want. Laura, to finish off.
I would probably start building your customer match lists if you're eligible for them and have the spend. You'll have the data of people that have bought from you before. So I'd start collating that and then use that in your targeting, because there's already some purchase intent there with them. And I don't have a tease. I don't have a chat box on the site or a podcast. So I guess send me videos of dogs if you want to talk about it more. So, yeah.
I love it.
I love puppies.
Yeah.
Videos of dogs to
TikToks
Laura,
of dogs.
please, everyone. Right. Guys, thank you so much. All of you who are watching, you can find out more about all our guests via these links here, which I've shared in the chat and which we will also share with you when we send you around. Those of you who have signed up to our email list, we'll send you details of all those links and clicks and all the rest of it. And what's coming up next at eCommerce MasterPlan? No, Chloe, this is the Keep Optimizing podcast. You're thinking about the wrong podcast. So this month in April, we're all about email marketing. We have live today an episode on using quizzes to increase your email list and your sales. That's a bit of zero-party data. Next week, we are talking about using Pinterest to grow your email list. Yes, time to master Pinterest. Very, very cool episode. It's another Laura, and she knows a lot about Pinterest. That's cool. The week after, we are doing email content trends with Komal from Pure 360, which is if you're trying to work out what to put in your emails for the biggest results this year, that's the one you need. And then we're rounding off with a chat with Gemma Banks from Klaviyo on customer first data, which is Klaviyo's version of zero party data. And we're talking about that purely about customer retention. So a hot topic for this coming year. And then, as Becky mentioned, and didn't mean to do that. We'll go back here a second. As Becky mentioned, the eCommerce MasterPlan Virtual Summit is coming very, very soon. Becky will be there, as will I, strangely enough. And you can get your free tickets to the summit right now at ecmp.info/summit. And you can find out all the details on that website too. So if you want more great tips and tricks for improving your marketing in what's going to be a very interesting year for e-commerce, then make sure you grab your ticket at our summit. And a huge thank you to all of I've managed to wipe Zeze off the screen, so let's change the view. A huge thank you to all the panelists. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you all for tuning in, and thanks for the questions too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.